What's going on, everybody? It's time for some post-draft power rankings for the TMJFB. If you're watching this and you're just one of my normal subs, the TMJFB is our big baseball league. It's a big auction that we do every year. It's a full keeper league. You have guys for years. You have guys at a salary cap. It's greatest league I've ever been a part of. I'm going to be doing some power rankings, so if you're interested in getting an insider to my league, stick around. If you're not, well, it'll be for the league mates, and that's totally fine with me. I finally have my voice back after the draft was Saturday. Today is now Tuesday. We auctioned about 150 plus players, and the draft took 14 hours at least. So by the time I left, my voice was completely shot, and it's just now finally returning to me. So I waited until I had enough voice to do the rankings. And so, with that said, let's jump in. This is our spreadsheet, obviously. This is the filled out version. I exported it, so I'm not messing with the real one. And we're going to start with team number 12. And before we do that, I do have to say that this year, of all years, there is not a clear defined 1 through 12. I've gone through this for the last 3 days now and have tried to figure out who's the worst, who's the best, and it's really difficult. I've changed my top 5 around 5, 6 times. I've changed the middle around 5, 6 times. I think of all years, every single team has a legitimate shot at making a run, and I feel like normally I would probably say that every year to make some teams feel better, but this year I actually believe it. I'm looking at some teams that have major gains in some areas and some downfalls in others, and I see some teams that went with good depth across the board. And it's like, how do you rank all these different strategies together? Well, we're going to try to do it, and we're going to do that now. So if you don't rank where you think, well, sorry, but this is the power rankings, and unfortunately, my power rankings start with the Young Bucks again. They started the preseason ranks at 12, and I have them sitting at 12 again. I think the reason I have them low is because I can't with every other team I can kind of see where they're going. I can see what their strategy is in general. I feel confused when I'm looking at the Young Bucks strategy, and maybe there's a big brain play here that I just don't quite understand just yet. Young Bucks obviously coming from the bottom. They want to go forward. They want to be the playoff team. We've talked about this many a times. And so they do have some guys in here that can absolutely, make them a playoff kind of team. But they also have a team that is almost not ready to compete yet. So it's a team that maybe in a year or two could potentially dominate the league, with these kind of guys. So it was interesting going into the draft to figure out how is Tom going to sort out this kind of, I might not be ready to make a push yet, and yet I kind of want to start getting myself into that position where I can be ready to make a push at any moment and start calling up these guys down here and really have a team that can push. So this is what the result was, and some of, I think, the confusion for me is around this guy right here, DJ LeMahieu. Obviously, Tom is a Yankee guy, this is his team, but this is honestly, this is the biggest confusion I've had, and maybe Tom can help clear this up, because the problem is DJ LeMahieu, $15, so it's a $100 cap. 15 bones is a significant portion of your money, and obviously you're paying a little bit for the fact that he plays basically every position. So my assumption is he'll probably play shortstop, while Whit Merrifield plays second base or something along those lines. So you can swap them all around, but with a team that's kind of coming from behind, wanting to get ready for a leap forward, you usually, I would think, try to find good players on good deals so you can start accumulating better talent. So what do I mean by that is, would you rather have DJ LeMahieu at 1 year $15, or just dumping over to West Coast? Would you rather have Corey Seager, Suarez, and Ketel Marte? You could have had all three of those guys for the exact same price that you paid for LeMahieu. So, I mean, this right here is a pretty stellar offense, up the middle but instead we just have the one guy who kind of does all three, I guess, but you paid as if they're three guys, but you can only play them in one spot. It's kind of confusing to me. If LeMahieu was making $8 and you had him for a year, then you could trade him later if it didn't work out the season. But at 15, I don't know how you trade him, and I don't know how he is better than something else you could have had. And spread out some of the love. So I was very confused by this signing, and a little bit the same kind of here, and it goes to the same story. Is like we could have had these kind of deals instead of Whit Merrifield, and I like Whit Merrifield. I like Whit Merrifield at $7 or $6 on a deal. I don't like him at his market value on a team that's kind of coming from the bottom up. And again, this is like well above market value. I feel like most teams say like, "Oh, I could have had Corey Seager at I had him at 11. Man, he got him at 6. I had him at 11." With DJ LeMahieu, it's the other way around. It was like, "Oh, we got him at 15. I actually had him at 7." $15. If we look at the contracts, let's see if I still have this. I wasn't planning on really showing this part, but if we look at it, LeMahieu is right here. In terms of hitters that were drafted, he was not a free agent. So 1, 2, not a free agent, 3, 4. So DJ LeMahieu was the 5th highest paid hitter coming out of this draft, which is crazy to me because you have guys who are projected to score 80 to 90 to 100 more points than LeMahieu going after him. Like, wouldn't you much rather have Lindor than LeMahieu? Anyway, I'm focusing all this energy and power onto this one guy. I want to keep going. Other things that I was confused about was the Carlos Carrasco. I get that this move makes sense if you're kind of playing back towards I want to sell later, or maybe he'll bounce back and I'll get good value and maybe I could move him or something along those lines, which kind of Corey Kluber is the same. So I have this like mix of like I want to go for it, and then I have this mix of like, well, maybe I don't want to go for it, and I'm just a little confused. This here, I actually like because it's kind of a go for it move, and if it doesn't work out, I could sell, kind of a thing. But I don't know who's gonna pitch for this team consistently. No, right? Yes, he'll pitch consistently. Do I think he'll get what we got last year? I don't know. Who knows with Kluber? Giolito, obviously a stud, but of this group here, what are we really going to get? I have absolutely no idea. What are we going to get here? I have absolutely no idea. So if we're really looking at who feels like they're going to actually pitch and be effective, we're really looking at maybe 3 guys at most. Looking at the AAA, it's not like there's a lot of pitchers down here. This guy actually had a really good start recently, so that's encouraging, but do we really know what we're going to get? Not really. My favorite signing for the team was Charlie Blackmon. I think that he got good money here. He's projected, mid 500 points, and I think that that's great. I feel like he needed to do this again with another outfielder at some point, especially down here, because do I really trust one of these two guys starting? Tommy Pham is going to start. Tommy Pham is better than both of these guys and costs $1 at the end of the draft. This is good value, but one of these two guys is going to start. So for me, it was kind of a confusing mix of I want to go for it, but I don't want to go for it all at the same time. And somebody's got to be last, and here's where we fall. And unfortunately, going to the next team, this one was much harder. I flip-flopped between the number 10 team and the number 11 team for probably 20-25 minutes today, just going back and forth in my mind, like, oh, well. And I fell on the Nittany Tide. I think that the Nittany Tide have a solid program here, and I do think that they are still probably like a year away from really making a big splash, and I get a feeling that they know that based on some of the signings that they gave, because they started giving some of these good deals 2 years. You see this, Castellanos, that's a pretty solid deal. Hoskins, that's a really good deal, 2 years in here. So he started to give these kind of better deals a little bit more time. Abreu, he's older. He knows that. He gave him a lot more money, so I'm not going to give him as many years. That was brilliant. Great play. I actually really like this offense. And to talk about one of the most intriguing guys of the draft was Randy Arozarena. I fully expected somebody to give him $6 to $8 and give him 3 or 4 years. And I was going to, say, ugh. But at 4 years, 350. That's fantastic. I love that contract. So hopefully he hits, because if he does, then this spot at 11 might not be, a very good spot. Now, what I want to talk about a little bit more is the pitching. He's got more of a depth team, and the reason I ended up deciding that John is 11 instead of 10 or 9 was because I just read yesterday that Sonny Gray is hurt and is doubtful to start the season. I think he'll be back shortly after the start of the season, but he is not going to start initially to start the season, which is a big hit. I love the closing situation. I suppose I'm bigger into closers than other teams are. But overall, I like John's hitting. Pitching is it's okay in the depth, but once we kind of get down into this mix, I feel like this is the year where having a lot of depth could help you. Even if you don't have a top guy, then having like 4 or 5 guys down here that could, if you had a couple of Ian Andersons, I'd feel really good. But I'm just not sure that exists here. Like, unfortunately, like a guy like Rosario is becoming like a spot filler as opposed to somebody that's helping you. If you just kind of compare these benches, you kind of see one of them has got a clear advantage when you're looking at that. Look at this bench over here; it's clearly an advantage. So if John can overcome some of these kind of depth issues over the course of the year, then we might have a really solid team here. I look through this team, and I think that this hitting is just as good as anybody, honestly, in the league. I'd probably rank it 5th, maybe 6th hitting, and then I would probably put the pitching a little bit lower, which puts him, fortunately, towards the back half of the league. I expected John's team to move up post-draft. It didn't, but I think that he got closer to the top 10 than he is towards like the back. I know that doesn't really make sense because he's at the back, but I could see him finishing in that top 5 range just as easily as I could see him finishing in that 11 range. So it's an interesting one. These are my number 12 and 11 teams, and I'll see you guys for the next one next time, probably tomorrow. Enjoy it.